Hello indie game fans! Due to the low number of new releases in December, I could not find 10 good early access titles, so we shall just have a top 8 featuring many roguelites, but we shall start with Urban Tale, a life sim RPG that simulates modern life.
It's summer, a sunny bright day. You should go out and explore the city. The city itself is one big adventure. You never know where you will end up and which opportunities you might find.
Given the constraints that we all have with our own lives, the experience of stepping in someone else's shoes is appealing, where you play as a character living in an urban city, working in a bar, grocery shop, as a manager and more, while exploring the city, interacting with its people and doing activities like going to the cinemas.
Meeting new people ain't easy, but hey, everybody needs a friend, right? Give yourself time to get to know everybody around the city. You never know who of them you might meet.
The sheer scope of this seems ambitious, with a UI that very much looks like Stardew Valley, only without the farming aspect. But based on the store page, it does seem quite limited in scope, but they are targeting a full release in 2020. The spooky roguelite Don't Die Minerva released last month and was perhaps the exact wrong season to do so, since October would have been much better. Nevertheless, this seems like Isaac crossed with Luigi's Mansion with different flashlights, stuffed animal companions, and permanent meta progression elements. More content is to be added through the next year or so of early access. Little Dungeon Stories is a very simplified card-based dungeon crawling roguelite that sees you adventuring through dungeons with a very Reigns style of control in swiping left and right. Seems to need some balancing and more content, but a good first step, so wishing the developer all the best. XO is a space strategy game in which you take command of the last battleship and have to unite 5 differing factions in order to save humanity against an unbeatable enemy. I love the art style in this, which sets it apart, and the strategic management layers to it are great as well. Early access is planned for at least 6 months with more ships and random events, but it is fully playable as of right now. Roguelite deck builders have started to come into their own, and Chrono Arc is one of the most recent ones. This looks like a very classic Japanese or Korean style RPG with an awesome anime art style, akin to something like Shin Megami Tensei, but each hero in your party levels up individually, have their own skills, and draw from these abilities in a deck building fashion. The main objective for the 1 year of early access is to complete the story campaign, but more characters, enemies, areas and more are to be added.
It comes every night without fail. There are different people every time.
Let's get this done quickly. Get whatever the warden want and get home.
GTFO is a hardcore 4-player co-op first-person shooter brought to you by some of the minds behind Payday 2. True enough, it does live up to that hardcore namesake, since you and your team really need to work together in order to complete the mission. You play as a team of prisoners, forced to work together to obtain valuable artifacts from underground complexes, that are overrun with nightmarish hordes, upon which you then need to GTFO to get back to the extraction point.
They want me to feel what they feel.
This is good, man. This is good stuff. It'll trade. Everything trades.
Some reviews have stated that it is really tough to the extent of being punishingly impossible, citing a focus on stealth, headshots, and conservation of ammo as being the key drawbacks, so not all shooty bang bang fun. However, if you played Payday 2, you will know that while going loud and robbing banks while fighting off the cops is fun, the stealthy option tends to be the way to go with less hassle and more reward, so perhaps they are building on from that. More enemies, environments, objectives and progression for both player characters and gear are to be added over the next year or so, but if you want to hunker down with some buddies, this looks like a great candidate. Helly Pot comes in at number 2 on the list, not because they sponsored a video on the channel, but because it really is a great title. Basically, furry anime rogue legacy, play as a white tiger knight searching for his brother who has suddenly turned on him. I absolutely love the aesthetics, being one of the most beautiful games that I have ever seen, and this has great feeling combat and well-designed rogue-lite systems. To me, it did feel like Hollow Knight in terms of how the character control and meta progression elements and bullet hell elements in the boss fights add to the package as well. Over the next 4 to 6 months, the developers intend to add more story content, items, runes and more, and I'm just waiting for more beautiful art. And for the most obvious pick ever, the rogue-lite action title from Supergiant Games, Hades, features here. Battle out of hell as Zagreus, son of Hades, as you break free from the clutches of your father.
I'm home. Well, time to go get killed again.
Such strange alliances we forge these days.
As is trademark of Supergiant Games, the art, voice acting and music is top notch, with a cast of characters from Greek mythology fleshed out in this world. Seek the power of the Olympian gods and come across other chthonic gods such as Charon the Ferryman or Death himself in Thanatos.
You ready, Megara? Tiffany? Let's go.
There is no greater pleasure in Elysium than vanquishing the likes of you.
There's a good boy.
Oh, the prince himself. Wow. Oh, wow. Welcome to the House of Hades.
Death approaches.
There are permanent upgrades for Zagreus and various currencies used to improve the House of Hades and to build relationships with other characters, so very well fleshed out and super polished.
Grant me the aspect of Nemesis.
The 1.0 release is planned for sometime in 2020 with a proper story conclusion and additional narrative content, but they are doing something that all early access developers should do in putting their update plans front and center, having a ticking indicator on the start screen of the game. Every update feels significant and brings with it a bunch of new stuff, and I always look forward to these.
This has to be some kind of bad dream.
It's finally time!
What you're watching is their fancy new trailer that came with the Steam release, and as someone who has been championing this title ever since its Epic Games Store days, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite titles and takes the #1 spot. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Check out the recommended playlist or the best pick for you, and I will see you after the jump.